The rotation is shifting in Los Angeles, and one of our most anticipated comeback stories this season is taking an unexpected turn. What's up, Lakers Nation? Welcome back to Lakers News Fan Report, your home for breaking news, in-depth analysis, and everything you need to stay connected with our beloved Los Angeles Lakers. I'm here every single day, bringing you the latest updates, the most accurate information, and the insights that matter most to our fan base. Today we're diving deep into a developing situation that could have major implications for our roster construction moving forward. This is about opportunity, about fit, and about making the tough decisions that championship organizations have to make. Stay locked in, because what I'm about to break down affects not just one player, but the entire trajectory of our season. Let me take you back to training camp. There was genuine excitement surrounding Jared Vanderbilt's return to full health. For the first time in what felt like forever, Vando was entering a season without injury concerns hanging over his head. The defensive intensity he brought during his initial stint with us, that relentless energy on that end of the floor, we were all expecting to see it unleashed again. J.J. Redick himself praised Vanderbilt's performance during the preseason, highlighting his defensive prowess and suggesting he would be a key piece of the rotation puzzle. Everything pointed toward Vando having a significant role in what we were building, but here's where reality starts to diverge from expectations, and here's why I needed to address this situation with complete transparency. Nearly 20 games into the 2025-26 season, Jared Vanderbilt finds himself in a position nobody anticipated. He's fallen out of the primary rotation. The minutes have dried up. The opportunities have become scarce. And over the last 4 games, he hasn't seen the floor at all. This isn't a minor adjustment or a temporary coaching decision. This is a fundamental shift in how the organization views his role on this team. Now, before we go any further, I want to establish some context, because understanding the numbers is crucial to understanding the situation. In his 14 appearances this season, Vanderbilt is averaging 4.6 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 1.0 steals per game, while shooting 44.0% from the field. Those are solid rebounding numbers for someone playing limited minutes. And that steal average shows the defensive instincts are still there. But here's the challenge. His overall impact on winning hasn't translated the way we hoped it would. The offensive limitations have become more pronounced, and in a league that increasingly values versatility on both ends, being a defensive specialist without offensive contributions makes it harder to carve out consistent playing time. I've been studying J.J. Redick's rotation patterns closely, analyzing who's getting minutes and why. What I'm seeing is a coach who values floor spacing, who wants defenders that can also contribute offensively, who needs every player on the court to be a threat in multiple ways. That philosophy makes perfect sense, given how we're trying to maximize LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But it also creates a difficult situation for a player like Vanderbilt, whose greatest strengths don't necessarily align with what this particular system requires. Here's where this gets really interesting, and here's where we need to start thinking about what comes next. At $11, $5 million per year, with 3 years remaining on his contract, Jared Vanderbilt represents one of the more challenging contracts to move in the entire NBA. That's not a criticism of Vando as a player or as a person. It's simply the reality of the market. Teams are hesitant to take on multi-year commitments for players with limited offensive games and extensive injury histories, regardless of how good their defense might be. So if the Lakers are seriously considering moving him, and all signs suggest they at least need to explore that possibility, it's going to require creativity and strategic thinking. Let me walk you through some scenarios that make sense from both a basketball and business perspective. I've been analyzing potential landing spots, studying team needs across the league, and trying to identify situations where Vanderbilt's skill set would be valued while also helping the Lakers address their own roster needs. What I've come up with are 3 destinations that could work for everyone involved, and each one tells a different story about what direction this franchise might be heading. The first scenario involves the Orlando Magic, a team that's built their identity on defensive intensity and length. Imagine a package that sends Jared Vanderbilt, Dalton Knecht, and a 2032 second-round pick to Orlando in exchange for Jonathan Isaac. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why would we include Knecht, a young shooter with upside, in any deal? Here's my thinking. The Magic need offensive firepower, especially perimeter shooting, and Knecht provides that. Vanderbilt gives them additional wing defense off the bench, which fits their system perfectly. That second-round pick sweetens the deal and gives them future flexibility. For us, acquiring Jonathan Isaac addresses one of our most glaring needs, a legitimate defensive presence in the paint who can protect the rim and alter shots. Isaac averages 3 blocks per game for his career, and his length and timing would be transformative for our interior defense. He's the kind of player who makes everyone else's defensive job easier because opponents have to account for him at the rim on every possession. The second scenario is more ambitious and, frankly, might be the hardest to pull off, but it's worth exploring. The Indiana Pacers have been inconsistent to start this season, and teams in that position sometimes consider shaking things up. What if we put together a package of Jared Vanderbilt, Dalton Knecht, and that same 2032 second-round pick in exchange for Obi Toppin? Now, Toppin has established himself as a key rotation player in Indiana, so convincing them to move him won't be easy. But let's think about what each side would be getting. The Pacers would add defensive versatility and rebounding with Vanderbilt, someone who can guard multiple positions and bring energy off the bench. Knecht gives them another scoring option, though he'd have to compete for minutes in their rotation. For us, Toppin would be a game changer. This guy is averaging 14.0 points and 7 rebounds while shooting 41.7% from the field. He's an elite rim runner, someone who can finish lobs and capitalize on the attention that LeBron and AD command. His development as a perimeter defender has been impressive, and while his three-point shooting is down this year at 17.6%, we've seen enough evidence from previous seasons to know he can shoot it from deep when he's in rhythm. Toppin would give us athleticism, versatility, and another legitimate scoring threat in the front court rotation. The third scenario involves the Sacramento Kings, and this one is particularly intriguing given what's happening up in Sacramento right now. The Kings are reportedly taking calls on almost everyone on their roster except Nick Clifford and Keegan Murray. When a team opens up their roster like that, it creates opportunities for other organizations to make moves. Here's what I'm thinking. A package of Jared Vanderbilt, Dalton Knecht, Adu Thiero, and a 2032 second-round pick going to Sacramento in exchange for Malik Monk. Yes, that Malik Monk, the same player who was absolutely electric for us during his previous stint in Los Angeles. For Sacramento, Vanderbilt becomes a secondary piece, but Thiero is the real prize. He's an athletic wing with elite two-way potential, exactly the kind of young talent that a rebuilding team should be targeting. Add in Knecht and a second-round pick, and you've got a package that gives them multiple young assets to build around. For us, bringing back Malik Monk would be huge. This guy can score in bunches. He understands how to play alongside LeBron, and his numbers this season are excellent. 12.7 points, 1.7 rebounds, and 1.9 assists per game, while shooting 44.9% from the field and 41.6% from three-point range. That three-point percentage is exactly what we need. Monk would give us another reliable perimeter shooter who can create his own shot and take pressure off our stars. Now, here's where we need to have an honest conversation about whether trading Jared Vanderbilt is actually the right move. I'm going to present both sides of this argument because I think it's important that we consider all angles. On one hand, we're sitting at 14-4, second in the Western Conference, playing some of the best basketball we've seen from this team in years. LeBron looks rejuvenated, AD is healthy and dominant, and our role players are contributing. When you're winning at this level, there's a strong argument for not disrupting the chemistry and continuity we've built. Even if Vanderbilt isn't playing major minutes right now, having him available as an option for specific matchups or injury situations has value. Championship teams need depth, and trading away that depth for marginal upgrades could backfire if we hit the injury bug later in the season. On the other hand, we have to think about maximizing our championship window while LeBron is still playing at an elite level. We have to think about whether Vanderbilt's skill set truly fits what J.J. Redick is trying to build. We have to think about that $11.5 million salary taking up space that could potentially be used more effectively. And we have to think about the fact that his trade value isn't going to increase if he continues sitting on the bench. If anything, it's going to decrease as other teams question why we're not playing him. From a pure asset management perspective, there's logic in exploring trades now, while we can still get reasonable value back, especially if those trades help us address specific needs like rim protection, perimeter shooting, or front court athleticism. The injury history is another factor we can't ignore. Vanderbilt has dealt with multiple significant injuries over the past couple of years, and while he entered this season healthy, that history makes teams nervous about committing multi-year money to him. It also makes us nervous about relying on him in crucial playoff moments when we need everyone at their absolute best. This isn't about questioning his toughness or his commitment. It's about being realistic about the risks involved with players who have extensive injury backgrounds. Let me talk about what each of those potential trades would mean for our rotation and our identity as a team. If we acquire Jonathan Isaac from Orlando, we're doubling down on defense and length. We're saying that protecting the paint and having multiple elite defenders is our path to a championship. Isaac, alongside Anthony Davis, would give us one of the most intimidating front-court defensive pairings in the entire league. The challenge would be spacing the floor offensively, but with LeBron's playmaking and our perimeter shooters, we could make it work. If we land Obi Toppin from Indiana, we're prioritizing athleticism and versatility. We're getting a player who can run the floor in transition, finish above the rim, and potentially stretch the floor from three-point range. He'd give us a different dimension in our front court rotation and take some of the physical burden off AD by providing another legitimate scoring threat. If we bring back Malik Monk from Sacramento, we're addressing our most pressing need, consistent perimeter shooting. Monk's ability to create his own shot and knock down threes at a high percentage would make our offense even more dangerous and give defenses another player they have to account for on every possession. There's also the human element to consider here, and I don't want to overlook it. Jared Vanderbilt is, by all accounts, a great teammate, someone who works hard and brings positive energy every single day. Watching him fall out of the rotation after working so hard to get healthy has to be frustrating for him, and it's not easy for any of us as fans to see either. We all remember the energy he brought when he first joined the team, the way he threw his body around on defense, the hustle plays that changed games. That version of Vando was exactly what we needed, and there was real hope that we'd see it again this season. The fact that it hasn't worked out the way anyone hoped is disappointing, but it's also part of the reality of professional sports. Sometimes talented players end up in situations where the fit just isn't right, and recognizing that early allows both sides to move on to better situations. I want to talk about timing for a second, because it matters tremendously in these situations. We're approaching the midpoint of the season, which means teams are starting to evaluate where they stand and what moves they might need to make. Contenders are looking to add pieces that can help them in the playoffs. Teams on the fringe are deciding whether to buy or sell. Rebuilding teams are accumulating assets for the future. This is when the trade market starts to heat up, and this is when opportunities emerge. If the Lakers are serious about moving Vanderbilt, the next few weeks are crucial. They need to be proactive, they need to be engaging with other teams, and they need to be ready to pull the trigger on a deal that makes sense. Waiting too long could mean missing out on the best available options. Let's also consider what happens if we don't trade Vanderbilt. Maybe J.J. Redick finds a way to reintegrate him into the rotation. Maybe an injury to another player creates an opportunity for him to prove his value again. Maybe his defense becomes crucial in a specific playoff matchup where we need someone to lock down an elite wing scorer. These are all possibilities, and there are reasons why some people will argue that we should hold on to him. But here's my concern. If he continues sitting on the bench, if he continues not being part of the rotation, we're essentially wasting a roster spot and $11.5 million in salary cap space. That's not sustainable for a team with championship aspirations, especially when we could potentially convert that into a player who actually contributes to winning games. The financial aspect deserves more attention, too. That 3-year commitment at $11.5 million per year isn't crippling, but it's significant enough that it limits our flexibility in other areas. Every dollar matters when you're trying to build a championship roster, and having money tied up in a player who isn't contributing makes it harder to address other needs through free agency or trades. If we can move Vanderbilt's contract and bring back a player on a more team-friendly deal or a player who's actually producing at a level commensurate with their salary, that improves our overall roster construction and gives us more flexibility moving forward. I keep coming back to one central question. What gives us the best chance to win a championship this season? That has to be the guiding principle for every decision we make. If keeping Jared Vanderbilt on the roster gives us the best chance, then we keep him and find ways to utilize his strengths. If trading him for Jonathan Isaac or Obi Toppin or Malik Monk gives us a better chance, then we make that move without hesitation. Rob Pelinka and the front office have shown they're willing to be aggressive when the opportunity is right, and I trust them to make the decision that puts us in the best position to compete for banner number 18. Looking at our current roster construction, we have elite talent at the top with LeBron and AD. We have solid role players who understand their assignments and execute them well. But we also have areas where we could improve, whether that's rim protection, perimeter shooting, or front court depth. Any trade involving Vanderbilt needs to address at least one of those areas in a meaningful way. Otherwise, we're just making a move for the sake of making a move. And that's not how championship teams operate. The reality is that Jared Vanderbilt's time as a meaningful contributor for the Los Angeles Lakers appears to be coming to an end. Whether that ends in a trade or simply continues with him sitting at the end of the bench, the writing seems to be on the wall. For his sake and for ours, finding a situation where he can contribute and we can get value back makes sense. It's not personal. It's not about diminishing what he's done for us in the past. It's about recognizing that circumstances have changed and making the adjustments necessary to keep this championship window open as long as possible. So here's where I land on all of this after analyzing every angle. I think the Lakers should absolutely be exploring trade options for Jared Vanderbilt. Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I read every single one, and your perspectives help shape how I think about these situations. If you found this analysis valuable, smash that like button, subscribe to Lakers News Fan Report for daily updates and comprehensive breakdowns, and hit the notification bell so you never miss breaking news about our Lakers. I'm here every day bringing you the content you need to stay informed and engaged with everything happening with our team. Let's keep building this community together and supporting our Lakers as they chase championship number 18. Until next time, Lakers Nation, stay passionate, stay informed, and let's go. Lakers!